Hello everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on November 7th, 2016. And well, you know what? The main thing I liked about this show, I'm not going to lie, I did somewhat enjoy the show, is more about the storytelling of the creation of the Survivor Series teams and their interactions with one another. I actually kind of did enjoy that. They started off the show by having the male Survivor Series team basically be brought out there. You knew the four people, with it being Braun, Roman, Chris Jericho, and Kevin Owens. And then they also brought out the fifth person as well, which ended up being Seth Rollins, which he kind of hinted at saying that he's getting some kind of like favor for actually being there. And even mentions through promos throughout the night, it's like, I don't even really like these guys. I'm just kind of doing this because I'm going to get something in the end, especially if we end up winning, to go along with it. And that was pretty much the focus of the entire show. That entire opening segment started off with Stephanie McMahon bringing them all out, and then saying, and I liked how at the end, as they were all bickering, it's like, hey, your jobs depend on this. So even indicating that somebody might get fired if Team Raw doesn't win or something in that sense. Eventually they do all brawl, which eventually gets led into a fatal five-way later on in the show. I'll talk about that a little bit later. After that segment, you had Rich Swann and Sin Cara going up against Brian Kendrick, and well, he's finally debuted Noam Dar. Noam Dar was part of the Cruiserweight Classic. He had been advertised for quite some time on being part of the Cruiserweight division on Monday Night Raw, and he finally debuts tonight. Fun match, though. There was no way anyone else was getting over because Noam Dar is from Scotland, so no one else was going to get over more than him tonight. Though Rich Swann going over, they're making him going over in the sense of winning the match and pinning Brian Kendrick yet again. They're really pushing for Kendrick to be or for Rich Swann to be the next contender to Brian Kendrick. And I would completely agree with that. Like, for the most part, like outside of maybe tonight where Noam Dar kind of went over in the case of being the face, Rich Swann's kind of been one of the more over guys from the Cruiserweight. He's kind of resonated with the crowd in a sense. After the match, they kind of turned Noam Dar face, though I think he's pretty much been a heel for the most part. I don't fully remember. He gets berated by Brian Kendrick, who cuts a pretty good promo on him, and then attacks him. But Noam Dar kind of gets the better of him, sending the message of maybe Noam Dar's being gonna be a babyface versus a heel. I mean, we'll see how everything plays off on that one down the road. Also, you had this really. Like like I said last week, you saw a little bit more from the Cruiserweights as they were kind of doing more things that you saw during the Cruiserweight Classic, and you saw something from Sin Cara where Noam Dar's laid out on the outside, and he does that over the top rope senton that usually happens in the ring, and does it to the outside. Looked completely, it was a completely sick looking move, and like I said, I think they're allowing the Cruiserweights to open up a little bit more, which would be a good thing in the terms of their moves and everything in that sense. They're allowing them to do a little bit more, and you're seeing some different style of maneuvers now that you saw more of during the Cruiserweight Classic with some of those matches. So we'll see how that ends up playing out completely down the road here and in the end. Up next was the tag team variation of the Survivor Series team matches. They start out with Enzo and Cass coming out there cutting their normal promo. Eventually, it leads to the rest of the teams coming out there in the sense of the Club, Cesaro and Sheamus, and Golden Truth. We'll talk about that one in a few moments. And they start cutting a promo before the New Day comes out there. I actually liked the promo that all sides came up with. Like, I saw how, like, Sheamus was like, oh, since the New Day, or since our so-called captains aren't here, the New Day, I'll take over the reins and everything in that sense. And all sides were working out well. Eventually the New Day comes out, and they come out dressed up as people from Braveheart. Okay, it was a little bit silly in that sense, but it got over with the crowd. and that's what they were aiming for here. So you can't blame them on that side of anything. But I like the line that Xavier Woods came out with, that the bagpipes were just Francesca's Scottish cousin. I forget the name that they came up with, but it was Francesca's Scottish cousin that was out there because he was having the bagpipes with him. They cut a pretty good promo. I like the aspect of how initially Cesaro or Sheamus wasn't going to be involved. It says like, no, I want to back out and everything in that sense. And then, but eventually they say that they're going to be in, and then even the club was like, okay, we're in, but the first chance that we get, we will stab you guys in the back. So you got some interactions there. This eventually did lead to them announcing that New Day was going to go up against Gallows and Anderson tonight in a tag team match, and of course, non-title tag team match, which Gallows and Anderson won, which, good for them. But you notice something about what happened with Gallows and Anderson here. Crowd, during their offense, like they interacted with like New Day and everything. But since the way they've been portraying Gallows and Anderson as of late, they won this match. They won it clean. Oh yeah, that's right. Since they've been like putting him so far down the totem pole, losing in singles matches a lot, losing tag matches a lot, though they won at Hell in a Cell. When they won here, the place was kind of dead. They were like, oh, they won. Wow. Which, like I said, was good. It's good for them because it makes them look better, but the crowd did not react to the victory in any way, shape, or form, whether it be boo or cheer, which for heels they would want to be booed in that sense. But since the way they've been treated over the past couple months, it was like, oh, they won. Huh. Okay. Yeah, it was one of those moments to go along with everything. And now let's go ahead and stick with the tag team thing, because eventually there was a backstage segment with R-Truth and Goldust, and apparently R-Truth sold their spots in the Survivor Series tag match for a timeshare at the Shining Stars Resort. Eventually this leads into a match where the team, whichever the winning team was going to be part of that tag match. Okay match. Crowd wasn't into it at all, but the Shining Stars go over, so now they're part of the tag team match at Survivor Series. The tag team elimination Survivor Series match. We'll just go with that one in that sense. So now they're part of it. Again, crowd not really into it. It was what it was in that sense. So now you get the Shining Stars instead of the Golden Truth. So, okay, in that one. Up next, let's see what we want to go with. Let's go ahead and go to the women's team announcements, basically, which that was what the segment was. Again, like I said, sticking to the theme of this, setting up these Survivor Series tag team matches to go along with everything. And, well, what can you say? Of course, they ended up adding Alicia Fox to go along with it. And I liked how the crowd, and I liked the interaction as well for Bayley with this. It's like she, like a little bit overwhelmed to go along with it. It kind of sticks to character, being overwhelmed. The fact that the crowd pretty much hijacked the segment with Bayley chants throughout the entire time. And I even liked the interaction that Charlotte threw in there to try to get along with everything, to try to heal up everything a little bit more to go along with it. They even teased the aspect of the fifth member being Dana Brooke, which was not going to be the case. It ends up being Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks coming back from the Hell in the Cell match. I even like the aspect of they're teasing Dana Brooke as an alternate, so there's the potential of like one of these people getting injured before the Survivor Series match, and then they would have to use Dana Brooke as the alternate, just like they have Natalya as the coach on SmackDown. Now they have an alternate competitor on Raw. It will be interesting to see how they play that off. This also led into a 6-woman tag match after the commercial break. The Faces end up winning in what was an okay match, a little meh at times. of course, Nia Jax showing dominance throughout the entire match in her variations. A little bit of a misdirection at the end, allowing Bayley to pin Charlotte after a Bayley to belly. They're definitely picking up everything here and making it feel like Bayley's the next contender after the whole Survivor Series thing is over with. Because, picking up the pin on Charlotte and everything in that sense. They're going to kind of go away from Charlotte and Sasha for the time being, and it's going to be Charlotte and Bayley to go along, be the title picture. So let's see what is next to go about here. Yes, let's go ahead and talk about the whole Rusev and Sami Zayn match. So it was shown throughout there was a segment backstage with Sami Zayn and Stephanie, and basically the match was set to figure out who was going to be facing Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental title. And Stephanie says, oh, you must have had to have pestered Mick Foley into getting into this match and everything in this sense. And she felt like Rusev should be the one that would be going up against Dolph Ziggler. So, I even like the aspect of Stephanie, again, going from this whole face-heel thing, that she's been doing. She completely goes heel on Sami Zayn, saying I don't like you, I don't like your upbeat attitude, I don't like this, I don't like that, and felt like that all he did was pester his way into a potential shot, where even Zayn says no, it's kind of a mixed idea, and Stephanie wasn't having any of it to go along with it. So the match was Rusev and Zayn basically the winner, going up against Dolph Ziggler at the pay-per-view to go along with it. You had, and what I would say was a pretty decent match to go along with it between both of them. Rusev kind of dominating, doing the typical thing that you would expect, like Sami Zayn having to come back. He shows the resiliency throughout the entire match, and eventually hits the haluva kick when Rusev goes to the top rope. And now Sami Zayn's going to face off against Dolph Ziggler at the pay-per-view. So actually, I'm kind of glad for this, though you would have expected it to be heel versus face in this case. But they're kind of giving Sami Zayn something to do here, where he hadn't been doing anything really outside of this program with Braun Strowman that's going to be kind of put on the away side, going with the fact that he's on the Survivor Series team to go along with it. So they're giving him something to do, and we'll see where they go with everything on this sense throughout the entire show. Other things that they did throughout the night, they did a lot of Goldberg, Brock Lesnar vignettes, pretty decent vignettes. Of course, Lesnar talking about how he's going to beat up Goldberg and everything in that sense. And of course, what Goldberg wants to do with Brock. They did some pretty good vignettes with it. They also did some other segments backstage, like Jericho and Kevin Owens trying to recruit Braun to be a part of their little group of everything, and try to cohort them onto their side for the Fatal 5-Way that night. Which of course Braun goes off and says, "Nope, I'm on Team Braun." Whatever. And you saw some other segments that go along with it. Like I said, the bit where Seth Rollins is even talking again, why would you join the Survivor Series team after your animosity with Stephanie and everybody else? Is I was kind of promised a couple things. Of course I don't like any of these guys, and they pretty much don't like me to go along with it. So he's even acknowledging that sense of it. Now on to the Fatal 5-Way though. With that was with, of course, being all 5 members of the Raw team. So Strowman, Reigns, Rollins, Jericho, and Kevin Owens. Pretty good match from these guys. I thought it was a decent Fatal 5-Way, though it was pitched as the only reason why this match was happening was to kind of get the aggression away so these guys could get on the same page. So the ending sequence saw a pedigree to Jericho, and then Kevin Owens gets rid of Rollins, and then Reigns gets rid of, Superman punches Owens and he falls out of the ring, and then KO falls on Jericho. So you're building tension later between Jericho and Kevin Owens once everything goes about it down the road there. Of course, they were kind of still trying to be buddy afterwards. Like maybe even Jericho didn't know that he was the one who got pinned or something in that sense after the match. I'm assuming that's something for them to play off later on down the road, and we'll see where everything goes in that sense of it. So overall, like I said, I kind of enjoyed Raw. Then again, I do enjoy it when they focus on the storylines and make them, focus on the storylines for the pay-per-view and everything in that sense. The matches themselves were kind of there for the aspect that they needed matches. Like it would be a weird show if like the entire thing was like, oh, we can't fight each other because we got to work together at the pay-per-view. We need to be healthy and everything in that sense. You knew it was like this was one of those bits like, okay, here are the teams, and now they've got to take the tension away to go along with it. I thought it came off rather good this week. They built the storylines going into the Survivor Series. You have the teams built up to go along with it. And like I said, it wasn't the greatest thing by any stretch of the imagination, but it was definitely better than that go-home show to Hell in a Cell a couple weeks ago. So I guess I guess in that sense, like I said, it was fine, but it wasn't really that good. They focused on storyline, which is what they needed to do, and we'll see where they go into everything next week because they have the whole tease of with Lesnar and Goldberg being face to face, and the tease that that Shane and Daniel Bryan are going to be there, and maybe they're finally going to give some kind of stipulation to these 3 Survivor Series elimination matches. Like there's nothing else on the line other than bragging rights at this point. And you figured there would be some kind of other stakes to go along with it. Maybe they actually announce it to go along, and it would have been a little late in the sense of the story of announcing it so late in the game. But maybe they'll announce something like draft picks or some other stakes to these matches to build the storyline going into the pay-per-view itself. So with that being said, that is my review this week for Monday Night Raw. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great day.